good slate coming up. Let's fill in the blank, Tim Legler. Let's get to business here. If I said to you, this year's MVP is what?
Wide open. And it's the first time I think I've been this late in the season and I feel it's this wide open. And it's because of Embiid's injury. I think he had his hands around the trophy. He went down. He's removed from the equation. There are a number of guys. I can make a case for probably 4 to 6 players that are going to get votes. So it's going to be determined, Greeny, in the last 25 games of the season. I really believe that it's neck and neck with a number of people.
All right, next question. The Warriors season will end with what?
Best case scenario, a first round loss. Worst case, a play-in loss. I just don't see Golden State making that kind of a run. They're too small. They're not good enough defensively. And they have too many guys that are just performing below their career norm. It's not just one guy. They've been better of late, but when you look at the Western Conference, I've talked about it all morning, I just don't see Golden State winning a series.
Life comes at you fast. 2 years ago, we thought they were on their way up. Finally, next year, LeBron will be playing for who?
The Lakers. Look, I think LeBron James, a couple things. One, I think he orchestrated his move to LA for reasons that are even beyond basketball, but the brand and the uniform that he's wearing out there were important to him. The market's important to him. I think he's comfortable out there. I think that's why he went there in the first place. He's also, I think, sleeping well at night with his legacy. I think he understands that in most people's minds, he could win 3 more championships. He's not closing the gap with Jordan. In the court of public perception. I think LeBron is finally comfortable in his own skin with what he has done to the game. I don't think there's any insecurity there. He's comfortable. If he never wins another one, I think he's going to be just fine where he ranks historically. So when you add those things up, I think the Lakers is where he finishes his career.
That's fair. There is, however, beyond whatever his chase for Jordan might be and however important that is to him, just the desire to win. Yeah. If you're going to continue to play, you want to have a chance to win. Do the Lakers, in the relatively short term, give him the best chance to win one more championship?
No, obviously, if he leaves, but it would depend on who he pairs up with. I mean, you could lay out scenarios for me and say,
give me one.
Go join some young stars.
Like
if he goes to Philadelphia with a healthy Embiid. Like, is that a possibility? Yeah, that would probably give him a better chance than what he's got now. But a lot of those scenarios aren't really plausible to think LeBron James would end up in those markets. So we can play that game all the time. 99% of all these things we talk about that are hypotheticals never happen. We waste a lot of time on them, but they don't really happen. He's paired with another star. Unfortunately, right now for LeBron James, the rest of that roster is not good enough. And the Western Conference continues to get better and separate, I think, more from the Lakers.
Let me just throw this at you. So we were just over there talking about Justin Fields and unfollowing on Instagram and all of that. I mean, LeBron has been sending some subliminal messages that he maybe isn't as satisfied and isn't as happy. And then the Warriors made their call, Woj and Ramona's story. And LeBron seemed to confirm he wants to stay in LA. But those things are always subject to change. I still have this fantasy of LeBron and Steph teaming it up. Look, you just sat here and told me the Lakers can't make a run and the Warriors can't make a run. I don't want to have seen the last of LeBron and Steph. They're the Butch and Sundance of our generation. Let's put them together one time and let them make a run at this thing. Is there no chance of something like that happening?
I'm never going to say there's no chance of anything in the NBA with what I have seen over the last decade, right, in player movement and more star players changing teams more often than they ever have in this league. There's no scenario you could pitch to me that I would say absolutely can't happen. Not in the NBA circle. So, yeah, that's possible. I mean, we heard, a little bit of smoke there heading into the trade deadline. It turns out there wasn't a lot to it, apparently, but we're always going to talk about it. And here's the thing about LeBron and Steph, regardless of whether they're on teams right now that can contend, and I don't think either one of those teams can this year, they're still fascinating. They are still going to be incredibly entertaining and scary if you're one of those top seeds. And that is your reward for the season you've had to be a 1 or a 2 seed, and you get the Lakers and LeBron, and you get the Warriors and Steph Curry in a best of 7. It's still a scary proposition, but ultimately, I just don't think it's enough with either one of these teams.
No, I'm with you. I'm just sitting here, I'm picturing I'm Steph Curry, and I'm still playing at an all-world level. I'm one of the great players of all time, and I get knocked out in the second round, and my coach says, we maxed out. We did everything we were capable of doing. If I'm him, I want more than that.
And look, I would understand why Steph Curry would want that and even recruit him and try to make that happen. And I don't think it wouldn't be a knock on Steph. You know why? Because he's got 2 rings that he won without Kevin Durant.
Right.
Steph Curry has 2 of those. He's proven what he can do as the top of the food chain with a franchise. So he's very comfortable with what, again, he has secured. So let's just go try to find some rings. And pairing up with LeBron might give him his best chance. Because when you look at what's happening with Golden State and like their future and what their roster looks like right now, it doesn't look like Steph Curry could win another one in Golden State as currently constructed unless you added a guy like that.
Let's make this happen. Get me Steph's number. Let's take a look at where we stand right now as the season's ceremonial second half begins tonight. These are the standings in the East. The Celtics firmly on top. A bunch of teams are making a push to try and get into that second spot, but you can see how far ahead Boston is. Timmy Legler, let's play a game of fact or fiction, all Eastern Conference questions.
All right.
If I said Jalen Brunson is a legit MVP candidate, is that fact or fiction?
That's a fact. I think he's going to get votes. And I was thinking about this. When you look at the teams in the NBA that you think have a legitimate shot at making a deep run, he is as identifiable with this franchise when you think of them as any of the other guys. Luka, Jokic, Giannis, any of those guys. This is his franchise. He has elevated them to that status. His play backs it up. He's great under pressure. Question is going to be, do they win enough games? And they're pretty banged up right now. We'll have to see.
There are real questions about Julius Randle. Let's go to Milwaukee. If I said Doc Rivers is going to turn things around for the Bucks, is that fact or fiction?
I'm going to say faction. I'm going to combine the two. Here's why. I do think we're going to see the best of the Bucks down the stretch and into the postseason. They're going to be better. They can't be worse. They hit rock bottom. I think that was important against Memphis. They're going to have to recalibrate. But here's the reason. It won't be because of Doc necessarily on the fly midseason. Very difficult to have an impact. It's going to come from Giannis's leadership. He is going to make guys accountable and get that team better defensively.
And then if I were to say the Celtics are just clearly the best team in the NBA, is that fact or fiction?
That's a fact. I just think they've been the best team all year. When you look at that starting lineup and you look at 5 guys that are two-way players, nobody else in the league can say that to the extent that the Boston Celtics can. When you look at the guard play with Derek White and Drew Holiday, obviously the 2 all-star forwards, and then the upgrade at center for Porzingis over what they've had in the past without giving up that much defensively because of his rim protection, but he's so much better offensively that now you look at a team and say there are just so many different ways to beat you. Their one vulnerability, Greeny, when they settle for too many three-point shots and they don't make you work defensively, they allow teams to guard them. That's the one thing that they have to keep in check because they really can do it any way you want to win a game. Right now, they have been the best team to this point in the season.
And they're led by one of the best players in Jayson Tatum, and he himself believes he could be more than just a great player. In an interesting interview with The Athletic, Jayson Tatum was talking about being the face of the NBA. He said, I feel like it's mine to take. I do feel like if we win a championship, it would be more distinguished and clear, but I understand I'm in that short list for sure. Earlier this morning, we were talking about the quote-unquote old guard of the NBA. This league has belonged to LeBron James and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant for a long time. All of them are one way or another on their way out, and we're waiting for someone to step in and fill that void. Is Jayson Tatum the next face of the league?
I don't know that he'll ever be viewed as the face of the league. Look, there's no denying he's an all-caliber, all-NBA type player, an MVP candidate, year after year. I think eventually going to be an NBA champion, maybe this year. I think there's something to the understated and stoic personality that prevents you from becoming the face of the league. And that's kind of who Jayson Tatum is. We just had this conversation about Kevin Durant and his leadership style. I think Jayson Tatum is very similar in his approach to it, right? Shows up, plays hard, plays every night. He's not a guy that's super demonstrative or in any way overt in his leadership. And I think as a result, maybe that prevents you from becoming the face of the league. Doesn't mean you can't be considered one of the best players in the league, maybe even the best. He could maybe ascend to that title, although that might be difficult. I don't know about the face of the league. I think that's a totally different component of what goes into that title.
Well, the reality of it is, look, I mean, the globalization of the game has led us to a place now where so many of the best players are international players. Right. The 2 most obvious candidates to me right now to be the next face of the league are Giannis and Luka Doncic. Yeah. Those are the two guys who have everything. They've got the game, they've got the personality, they've got all of the charisma, they've got all those things combined. And the fact that neither of them are American, I don't know that makes any difference anymore. And then eventually we'll see about Victor Wembanyama. Clearly they want him to become that guy. He also obviously not American. It's much too soon to tell if that matters. I don't know that it makes any difference that these are international players in the world in which we live anymore. I think Giannis and Luka feel like the best chances to become the next faces of
I agree. And I don't know if you remember this. We did a segment on this topic when we were ending the last decade. And we said the next decade will be defined by fill in the blank. And I said Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic. And the decisions that they make in terms of do they stay with one organization, who do they pair up with? Because it seems inevitable that Luka is going to be a multiple-time MVP in this league, and I think he's going to be a multiple-time champion at some point. I think Giannis probably has got another championship in him. He's already been multiple-time MVP. So I think a lot of this current decade will be defined by their decisions, who they play with and what kind of talent they get around them. And those guys probably are still, I think a little bit ahead of the scale in terms of Jayson Tatum and face of the league status. First, Jayson Tatum has to win a title. And he's been on the precipice so many times. This is his best chance. Everything is aligned for the Boston Celtics and Jayson Tatum to win a championship this year. Yeah,
there was a moment there where the league belonged to Giannis. It was during the COVID period and everything else, but he won the championship, and it sort of felt like his. Luka's got to get there. Tatum's got to get there. There were a few other options.